My son stole his dead mother's ring for his girlfriend, but the fallout will be worse than he could have imagined.
Why would I go pay for things when I can steal it
from their dead bodies? To say that I was mad as hell would be an understatement. I, 46 male, have a son, Jake, 23 male, and fake name. Jake was a good kid growing up, so him doing this was a complete shock to me. I have a daughter too, Amber, 16 female, also fake name. And when my wife passed away, she already had a will in place. Jake got his cut and he was already 21. He used that money to put a down payment on a condo and he also got his mother's car. But the will stated that my daughter was to get all of my wife's jewelry. That included a vintage gold ring with a diamond that had a light blue sapphire in each side of it.
Ooh.
The Pink Panther.
The dead mom's collection.
The ring has been passed down for generations in my wife's family. It was originally her grandmother's wedding band. Her husband was a jeweler and handcrafted the ring for her himself. It was passed down to my wife's mother when her grandmother died, and then to my wife herself when her mother passed.
Sounds like the jewelry could be like crazy expensive.
For the past 8 months, Jake has been dating Sarah. She has my son wrapped around her little finger. She loves jewelry as she adorns herself with it a lot. My son mentioned the family jewels. That's a funny way of saying it. My wife left his sister to Sarah one day, and Sarah really wanted to see them.
Why are you so curious, Sarah?
So Jake went into my room when no one was home and showed the family jewels to her. He later admitted to me that he'd done this, and I was angry, but I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. This was not the end of it. This is Reddit, god dang it. Jake came to me a week ago and begged for that ring from his mother's family jewels. Why do you gotta say family jewels? Just say jewels. He said Sarah had fallen in love with the ring when she saw it before, and he just knew it'd be the perfect ring to ask her to marry him with. Instead, I told him that I was not the one to ask because the ring belongs to Amber, and I wouldn't have her pressuring her to give it up either. For a fair chance, I'd allow him to explain his reasons and ask her for it once and only once, without pressuring her. And if she refuses for any reason, that will be the end of it. Jake agreed and asked Amber for the ring right in front of me. So man didn't like stop for a second. Yeah. He's like, can I have it?
Okay, cool.
Can I have it, please? But she told him no, because she wanted to keep it in the family jewels. And has always loved that ring. I feel like OP's doing it on purpose. To her, it's priceless. She couldn't bear to ever give it up. I told Jake that was that and did not press the matter further. Jake left looking very unhappy about not getting the ring, but I thought he'd let it go and look into finding a similar one. But he came back another day while I was at work to talk to his sister after she got home from school. He and Amber got into a huge fight about the ring, and Amber called me crying. I called Jake and told him to get out of my house and leave his sister alone.
You are banished.
Jake yelled at me and said that he should have just as much right to the ring as his sister because my wife was his mother too. But I reminded him he got a lot of his mother's money and her car
and a condo.
The jewelry is Amber's and only hers. He hung up on me, and Amber soon texted me that he left very angry. Man's kind of spoiled. Like he gets all this money from his mom and then
giving entitlement for sure.
Later, right before I left for work, my daughter called and told me that Jake came back. He walked in dressed in a suit, went into my room, and took something.
No.
What do you think he took? Put it in the comments below.
Did he take a used paper towel?
No.
Or did he take that mother frickin' ring?
She tried to keep him from leaving, but he shoved her out of the way. I rushed home as soon as my shift was over and checked my wife's jewelry box. And the ring was gone. I immediately called Jake, but he didn't answer. So I messaged him that I'll get the police involved if he doesn't return the ring. Using it to propose won't stop me from taking it back. Justice, baby. That finally made him talk to me. And he tried to say that I couldn't do that to him because he's my son. I said, I can and will because he outright stole the ring. Well, he phoned me right after that, and in a whisper, he said that it was too late. He had taken his girlfriend out to dinner and proposed to her with my misery.
Oh.
He hadn't had it for more than an hour by this point, yet the ring was already on her finger. I said that was his problem. He stole the ring. He can bring it back. It's not his, and I will do whatever it takes to make sure it's returned, Taken style. And if that means going to the police and blowing the whole situation up, then so be it. I'll file a report. I'll even get a lawyer. Jake started crying and saying, I couldn't do it to him. I told him tough luck. He stole from both his sister and dead mother. So I told him to have the ring back by morning or I would be moving forward with legal action. Jake is my son, but he still broke the law. I couldn't overlook what he did. He said he'd be in by morning to talk and ended the call while crying even more. Boo-hoo. Jake did show up in the morning and brought his girlfriend with him to try to guilt us. Turns out she not only knew he stole the ring, she wanted to keep it anyway because she was completely in love with the ring since she first laid eyes on it. I feel like this girl likes the ring more than she likes this dude. I told her I didn't care. She could have a jeweler make a copy of it or something, but the original doesn't belong to her. It belongs to my daughter and deceased wife. Jake begged me one more time to make her give it back, but I and my daughter stood firm. Return the ring or face the police and maybe even a potential lawsuit. Jake's girlfriend pulled the ring off her finger and dropped it in my daughter's hands, calling me an evil bastard, and then left my house in tears. Boo-hoo. Jake started screaming at me that I may have destroyed his relationship. If your relationship gets destroyed over a ring,
Get a new relationship.
I retorted to him that he did this to his own relationship by stealing a ring that didn't belong to him. Jake had nothing more to say to me and walked out to follow after his girlfriend in classic whip Jake. I didn't get anyone else involved in the situation, but Jake did. He tried getting support from friends and family, but he got the exact opposite reaction he got for him. They were all mad at him over what he'd done. I tried to do damage control, but now everyone knows. It's been a week now, and Jake's refused to speak to me. I sent him detailed pictures of the ring just in case he wanted a jeweler to replicate it, but making a copy would be very expensive unless he used fake stones. Thus far, there has been no response. There actually is another update to this story. I want to know what you guys would do in this situation.
Yeah.
But who do you think is the a-hole so far?
Oh, easily the son.
I feel also the girlfriend's a little bit of the a-hole too.
Arguably the biggest a-hole here because it's like, this is not her family, her stuff.
I feel like she's coercing the guy a little bit. Well, my son's girlfriend, Sarah, has officially broken up with him. After I forced him and Sarah to return the stolen ring, she apparently spent days crying in bed and then told Jake that she didn't want a different ring no matter how much he told her he'd get her another one. She wanted my deceased wife's ring. If no one died in this ring, then I don't want it. My son had the pictures I sent him so that he could try to replicate the ring, and he took them to a jeweler. This jeweler said he could make a similar ring based on the pictures, but he wanted to closely examine the original and take proper measurements. Jake waited for a while until he had to swallow his pride and call me again. His girlfriend was finally at least entertaining the idea of making a copy, but she wanted it to be an exact copy down to the smallest detail. What a diva. They called me a couple days after I made my original post and asked me to bring the ring to a jeweler to get a proper quote on the cost of making a duplicate. I agreed to make an extended lunch break and meet the local jeweler. I got the ring from a safety deposit box and guarded it closely because we got thieves on the loose.
Yep.
I could see Sarah's light up with greed the moment she saw it again. She's literally like Golem. She's like, Schmeagler wants the ring.
I don't care if it was your damn mama.
She reached her hand out and asked, can I just wear it one more time? I told her no. For all I knew, she'd take off running the second she had it. The jeweler looked at the ring very closely for a little while and said it was worth a lot more than we thought. The ring was decades old and expertly crafted by my wife's grandfather sometime in the 1940s. The jeweler was singing its praises. The diamond and sapphires were decently large for an engagement ring, and the ring itself didn't use a slim gold band, but a pretty thick and heavy one of what was estimated to be 18 karat gold. But there was more. The stones themselves were set in platinum, and the ring had many ornate floral carvings on it. The stones alone needed to make an identical ring were more than Jake's current budget. Not including antique value, making a copy of the ring like that with a variety of materials would cost a lot in time and labor because every part of it would have to be handcrafted. This is an intricate ring.
Seriously.
It was 5 times more than what Jake had saved. The best he could have done would be to make a down payment and then spend years in debt. Sarah enthusiastically wanted Jake to have the ring made anyway, but the cost was just too much. Sarah doesn't give a shit about Jake, bro. So the jeweler suggested they have one made that just looks the same. It would have reduced the cost by a lot. There were also a suggestion of looking for a modern ring that looks similar that's already made, which would have been far cheaper as well. Jake was all for that idea, when suddenly Sarah slapped him while calling him a cheap, broke wannabe, then turned on her heel to call me an evil bastard for taking the original ring back because it already had been given to her when Jake proposed and should still be hers regardless.
In the store.
In the store. Then she held up her hand in a manner one does when they expect you to put a ring on their finger and outright demanded the ring back while saying it was her right to wear it and that my daughter wouldn't need it because it go to waste with her. Oh boy, did that make me angry. She clearly noticed because she took a couple steps back. I looked her dead in the eye and said that my wife's family ring will never be hers. Then I said that it's entitled people like her that are what's wrong with the world now. She acts like whatever she wants should be handed to her. After I said all of that to Sarah's face, she aimed to slap me too. But I guess the look in my eyes was enough to make her turn around and storm out instead, while very loudly making some sort of unintelligible tantrum noises that hurt my ear. She even intentionally knocked down a counter display on her way out. Jake was glaring at me with absolute rage, but didn't say anything until I asked him why he was with this awful woman. He just said he loved her and followed after.
No.
To his credit, she is very beautiful, but it's really just skin deep. He's caught in the beauty trap.
Not after she slapped him.
But she hot though. She wouldn't talk to Jake for a while. And then a few days later, told him they were through because she felt like he didn't value her enough to get her a ring that she deserved. And that she couldn't imagine having a miser like me as a father-in-law. She said that she felt thoroughly humiliated by me and cried that people all think she's a gold digger now. I can't imagine why people would think.
Oh, where did that come from?
Right after the incident with the breakup, Jake did try to get in my house again while I wasn't home. But if I was to speculate, he may have been after the cash in my gun safe or thought the family jewels were still in the house. I hadn't told him at that point that I'd had them stored away in a deposit box. I really didn't want to think my own son would break in for either of those reasons, but he stole from us once. He could do it again. My daughter Amber called me after Jake showed up and said she was terrified while he was banging on the front door, demanding to be let in. I called his cell and he didn't pick up, but I guess it spooked him because Amber said he left right after his phone started ringing. Jake called later that evening, but before he could start yelling at me, I demanded to know what the hell he was trying to do to break into my house while I wasn't home earlier. He scared his sister and she nearly called the police. Jake dodged the question by being angry about me changing the locks because I don't trust him. I said, damn right I don't trust him. Not after what he did. Jake fired back that I couldn't just be happy for him, that if his mom was still alive, she'd want him to have the ring to propose. Wouldn't the mom still be wearing the ring?
Yeah.
I saw red and said if she wanted that, she'd have willed it to him. I said if he was after the ring or any other family jewels, they've been moved to a secure, safe location only I have access to. If he was there to do any sort of harm to his sister, I'd kick his ass. I may have hit the nail on the head with at least one of those things because Jake just went silent. Then he told me he's made up his mind to put in for a transfer at his job and sell his condo. He wants to move as far away as possible and never speak to me again. His last words to me were, have a nice life with my favorite child. I don't understand how my son has changed so completely in just a year.
My jaw's on the ground.
Sarah was arrested last week for attempting to break into my house. The cameras I installed caught her sneaking into my backyard and trying to break in. She tried to break open my back door with an axe and tripped the alarm I had installed. She ran off with the cameras in front of my house caught video of both her and her car very clearly in my driveway. She also left the axe with her fingerprints on it. When police got there, she was long gone, but they later found her at her apartment. They initially just wanted to arrest her for breaking my door and trespassing, but she went crazy on them and wound up getting pinned on the ground and frog marched out. The woman definitely has something wrong with her. Holy moly. What would you do in this situation as OP? It feels like if you're getting stuck on the ring for a relationship, red flag.
Anyone that stresses that, like, oh, well, you should give me this, you should give me that, like, no.
No way. Let us know in the comments what you would do. Also, how much is the right amount to spend on a ring?
That's it. Yeah,
That's what we need to know.
How much have you either spent on or was spent on your ring? The people who have or that are married, I'd be curious to know.
Yeah. Who has the biggest?
Yeah, the biggest rock.
The biggest rock. Let us know.